All right. So speaking of Jimmy, quarterbacks that needs jobs and displacements, there's one we did not mention. And I had a reason for not mentioning this quarterback, and it's Deshaun Watson. I talked about him on my solo show.
Yes, you did.
And I kind of want to get an idea of your thoughts behind all of this. So, Watson doesn't have, quote unquote, a job right now. Well, he has a job. He has a new contract that's going to kick in 2 years, and then he gets paid like $140-something million.
Right.
But he don't want to be there no more.
No, he doesn't want to go to work.
He won't go to work no more. He's tired of his boss. He's tired of his boss's boss, and he's at the point where he wants out.
Take me off the schedule.
Taking off the schedule. Whatever, giving up all of his overtime. He's just every other day he's calling in sick. He wants to be out.
Yes. And
rightfully so. And I was talking about on my solo how the issue is that Bomani Jones had mentioned it on a pod I was listening to about him believing that the owners are shook. Mm-hmm. And that these owners are like, you bet not trade him. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not sure if this is a confirmation or not, but it seems like that situation. They don't want him to trade him because if they trade him, then that opens Pandora's box, and other quarterbacks, young ones that are super talented, are going to lead to the same thing. So, do you think that that's fair? Does that make sense for them to not do that? And then let's talk about potential destinations for Deshaun Watson in this.
All right, so first piece, is it fair for the owners to do that? Yes, it is fair because everyone is watching this situation closely because we've never seen anything like this that I can recall in the NFL. A quarterback this great, this age, this contract, who basically said, I don't want to play for this organization anymore. Or if we have, it's been a long time since we saw it.
The closest thing we have is Carson Palmer.
Okay.
And he had some pretty good years in Cincinnati. Not that great. Yeah. But then he recognized that he'll never win anything if he stays in Cincinnati. Uh-huh. He's the only person. And he put a for sale sign in front of his house. That's basically it. Yeah. Like as I can think of. I think that's it.
Okay. And I say this from time to time on the show. The empire always strikes back. When this particular situation, and this is going to determine what NFL player mobility is going to look like over the next 5 to 10 years.
It's true.
That's why this is so important. And the owners recognize that. So they probably said to Houston's owner, who was probably planning on giving Deshaun Watson what he wanted for obvious reasons. They said, no, don't do this, because if you do this, I'm going to have to do this with my left tackle. He's going to have to do this with his middle linebacker. He's going to have to do this with his star receiver. He's going to have to do this with his best running back. If you do this, you set the precedent, just like in legal cases. Other teams are going to have to follow this in order for this to continue. If not, we're going to look horrible in the media, and that affects our branding. So for them to say, don't do this, dig your feet in the dirt, wait him out, do not give him what he wants, from their perspective, from their business perspective, yes, it is fair.
Okay, so that leads to another conversation now. Okay. This is the most powerful and critical position in American sports.
Yes.
Period. There's no other position in any other sport that's as critical as a quarterback. The closest thing you have would be the goalie in hockey and soccer. Mm-hmm. That's next. You can't even say pitchers.
Yeah, you could.
Not really, because because they only pitch once every 6 games. And then in the playoffs, they don't play every game. The entire thing isn't hinged on them. You can have, we've seen Clayton Kershaw have great seasons, atrocious playoff runs, but then he put something together later. But you have to have multiples in that sport. Yeah. In basketball, you have to have multiple stars in order to be able to win, because the way the dynamics of the league. In football, everything starts and ends with your quarterback. Sure. Period. He touches the ball more than anybody else. He's always running things. So, outside of the center, that right there to me is where they're running into a problem. That position has learned its power. They've hit the echelon of money. Mm-hmm. They've hit the hundreds of millions now. And now they're at that point where they're making that much money. Deshaun Watson can just walk away today. He's been broke before. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, he's got $40 million in the bank already. And he can just go ahead and say, you know what? Here's my sign. I've already moved. My house, I've already moved back to Georgia. I moved, you know what I'm saying? I moved wherever, I moved to Florida, where I'm from. I've already moved and left, and I don't have to come back. So now that's where they have to figure out, can the Shield overcome these icons? Russell Wilson, you mentioned it earlier. He's now at beast with his team. He's just mentioning that, hey, it'd be nice if I had, a little bit more power to mention things. Or, in other words, Why don't y'all consult me anymore?
Mm-hmm. And that's what this is really about. It's like you said, once they hit that echelon of money, then it was no longer about money. Now this is about power.
Yes.
First you get the money. Now they want the power.
Exactly. But the thing about it is these quarterbacks got it. I mean, Tom Brady, for the most part, had it as face of the franchises. Mm-hmm. Same thing with Drew Brees. Your quarterback's your face. Period. Patrick Mahomes has created this massiveness at the fact that at basically $400 million in his contract, just under $500 million, he set it up to where I am your face. Mm-hmm. No matter what you say or do, I'm it. And other teams are scrambling to get another him. Mm-hmm. They're not looking for a linebacker or a corner to stop him. They don't care about that. Mm-hmm. They're trying to find another quarterback to match him fight for fight.
And that's the thing. And that's another reason why Houston has to dig their other foot in the ground, because Deshaun Watson is not Patrick Mahomes, but
he's close. He
can get there.
He can
get there.
If you put the weapons around him, he can. I mean, you don't trade your best wide receiver away for a second, who is, the best hands in the league, period. He's considered the best hands in the league by even his counterparts. So that's the ridiculousness of Houston, and we'll get off of them, that soapbox. Yes. Let's talk about scenarios. So, okay, now I mentioned why he'll never get traded. Mm-hmm. But there is always that 1% chance of everything happening in this world. Trade scenarios, locations. We've heard about teams that are making runs for them. I'm going to ask you these 5 teams. Okay. And then we'll give you one final one to tell me if you feel like it would make sense to go to. First off, Carolina Panthers. You think they can get him?
Do I think they can get him? No. And I think it's because I don't think he would waive his no trade clause for them.
Really?
Really. I don't think he would. I don't think that there's enough there to make him believe that he can be a winner immediately. I know they have Christian McCaffrey, hurt most of last season. They have a good receiving core, not necessarily dynamic. And their defense is a bunch of young guys. They literally drafted all defense last year.
Yep.
And I think that in about 3 years, maybe, they're going to be a really good team and can really push teams in the playoffs. But for right now, that's not enough to get me there if I'm Deshaun Watson, since I have other options out there.
Okay. New York Giants.
New York Giants. And that's interesting. You know, from a marketing standpoint, you have to really like that. And this is a team that's generally well run. They have championships under their belt. Right now, football-wise, there's not enough to get me excited about the Giants. Saquon Barkley, same as Christian McCaffrey, hurt just about all of last year, dynamic as he is. So football-wise, no, but marketing, branding, being in the Big Apple, yes. But I'm going to say no on the Giants.
Okay. San Francisco 49ers.
San Francisco 49ers, get me there yesterday. Get me there yesterday. Everything I just talked about, they have that. They have championship pedigree there now, have been well run since they brought in John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan together. They've got defensive pieces that are going to come back. They have a young, dynamic offense with Kyle Shanahan's play calling. Get me to San Francisco. Yes, yes, yes.
San Francisco, okay. Mm-hmm. Chicago Bears.
Chicago Bears. Now, I'm on the fence of them, but I'm going to say yes on Chicago. Taking part of what you said earlier, I think they still have a good defense intact. I think that David Montgomery has emerged as a really good running back. I would need them to re-sign Allen Robinson, who's a free agent. He's their best wide receiver. I'm going to need you to do that. But, again, that's a good market. Historic fan base. I could see him. I just see Deshaun as a really hard worker, someone who's gritty, someone who really came out of the mud. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think that Chicago would be a good spot for him. And people have for years raved about Matt Nagy's play calling, even though Mitchell Trubisky has made him look like he's not that. But people who know him, especially being from the Andy Reid tree, believe that he still is. So if I'm Deshaun, Chicago wouldn't necessarily be my first choice, but it would be in my cluster of 3 to 4 teams that I would be comfortable going to. I mean, it's a hell of a lot better than my current situation in Houston.
I agree with you on that. Okay, I got 2, and these are the 2 that we're going to debate. I love your answers behind the Panthers, okay, the Bears, Giants, and the 49ers. But here's 2 that we need to discuss quickly. You ready?
Yes.
First team. Well, actually, correction. Which team do you feel like would be a better place for him to go? Okay. We're going to go with why on both. The Miami Dolphins or the Las Vegas Raiders?
Oh, man.
Yeah, I want you to think about that. I want you to be feeling stumped. Because
Miami or Vegas?
I feel like with these 2, these are the 2 best possible locations he can go to. Mm-hmm. In a circumstance, under two circumstances with it, and I'll explain so that it gives you some time to think about it and some other factors to consider. First off, the Las Vegas Raiders head coach is stuck there for another 7 years. Because of that, they're not going to move off on him. They're not going to move away. So that means that you're going to, no matter if he gives away all his draft picks for the next 3 years to get Watson, you're guaranteed to keep the same coach at least for 5 years. That's a big piece to me. That's stability. Him and Mayock ain't going nowhere. You've got other pieces within that team that can work. You've got 2 running backs you got Josh Jacobs, who is really good, and then his backup, Richard. Is that his last name? I got to look him up again. I always forget. But you got 2 running backs, which is a big deal. So if you have to give up one of them, of course, you're not going to give up Josh Jacobs. That's just stupid. You say no. But you can trade your tight end Waller if you need to really get something going. Yeah, Jalen Richard. I'm sorry. Jalen Richard out of Southern Miss. My bad, dog.
Right.
You've got that. Wide receivers, they're okay, but you can work with it. Defense is young, and there's something that can be grown into. On the other coin, you got the Miami Dolphins. They got draft picks that they can send away and not lose any players. And then they also send Tua, who's also a young quarterback that Houston can now build around. So they're even more enticing. So basically, they basically snatched the Houston Texans chain and they're going to sell it back to them for their quarterback. I feel like that's a good option. So if they're honestly, but if out of the 2, if I was to pick one, I think Miami would be a better place because of they're young, they've got pieces, and they won't have to mortgage their future to get Watson.
Who is Miami's running back? I feel like they have someone, and I cannot quite recall who that is.
I am glad you
At this point, it's probably not going to change my answer, but I do want to know who that running back is.
Okay.
Because I know they sent to the Cardinals Kenyon Drake, who I thought had a good season.
Yeah.
He was kind of up and down, but he was still good.
Yeah, they sent him about a year ago. So yeah, he's been gone.
Okay,
He's been gone.
He
He's been gone.
Okay.
They have your boy Breida.
Okay.
Miles Gaskin.
Okay. Gaskin's actually pretty good.
Exactly. Patrick, what's that? Laird.
Patrick Laird.
There you go.
He's okay.
Malcolm Perry,
Over third down back.
who was a rookie out of Navy.
Okay.
And then Jordan Scarlett out of Florida.
Okay. I'm going to go with you. I'm going to go with Miami. The direction that they're moving, the energy of that franchise, and the culture that Brian Flores has helped to instill, I think has got them definitely going in the right direction. Think about it this way. Would you rather have to deal with, it's kind of the lesser of two evils, Josh Allen twice a year or Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert twice a year? Actually, having said it that way, adding Herbert to it, I don't necessarily want to be in that division if I don't have to.
Justin Herbert's now gone.
I'm going to go with Miami. I would say, okay, I really like Gaskin. Another complimentary back to him who's proven would be helpful because the Miami defense is good. I think they're kind of like Pittsburgh in the sense that they do something every single game. They always get a takeaway every game, just like Pittsburgh always gets a sack every game. So I would say barely Miami because Vegas has some alluring pieces. I love Darren Waller. Everybody does. I love Josh Jacobs. Everybody does. I think they have the better offensive line as well.
Yes, that's the thing that Oakland / Las Vegas has always done is build a line, just like Dallas. That's the two things I can say. Those two organizations always have done great. Al Davis and Jerry Jones were known for. We got to have a solid offensive line.
And market wise, I think Vegas, and Miami, they're kind of about the same. I mean, they're kind of glamorous markets in a way. But with fan bases who have so many other things to do in that city, there's a lot to do in Miami, whole lot to do in Las Vegas. We know that. So I think that's about even. So I would say just barely I would take Miami.
Yeah, I mean, you got Gesicki going up against Waller.
He's a good tight end.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. You got it. Yeah.
Devontae Parker's a good wide receiver. He was better 2 years ago than he was last year, but he's proven to be a good receiver as well.
I mean, who's throwing on the ball? I mean, you got young Tua, you got Fitzmagic, who's always been this, and that's really about it. So
yeah, I mean, they went all in on defense last year in free agency with Kyle Van Noy and Byron Jones.
Yep,
and they have a good line. They have a good offensive line. Most people can't name a single person on that D line. I can because I had him for a while in our fantasy league.
Yep,
but
I mean, they got Shaq Lawson, which I mean is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, you can't suck if your name is Shaq. If your name is Shaq, anything you got to be at least good.
You better be.
You can't.
Right? And then Christian Wilkins, 2 Clemson boys. So add 2 Clemson boys together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Miami is in on him too.
Oh yeah,
they're in on Deshaun Watson.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, they'd love to have him. I mean, like I said, they already stole the chain. Why not just sell it back to him?